Hello. Oop, and I think we are live. All right, perfect. Well, welcome everyone or no one. This is Thomas from Thomas Goes Nostalgic, and today I have a very special guest, and we are going to do our countdown to our top 10 favorite Christmas gifts ever. And someone I thought was a really good person to ask to join me is none other than my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, Tom. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
It's going. Nice to see you. Day Christmas Eve. So, we're on different sides of the country, so it's nice to be able to do this with you.
And I thought it'd be good because like a lot of your toys were sometimes my toys, and so I'll understand a lot about what a lot of your choices and why you picked them, and we'll have some good back and forth. So I just thought this would be really fun. I know in the action figure community, it's usually talking about a lot of stuff that's current or you know all the new stuff, but I thought this is a good time to go back and think about what are some of those things that kind of led us to this collector world and kind of the taste. So we have Michael in the chat. Michael's from New York as well. So
How you
hey
doing,
Michael, how you
Michael?
doing? And he lives in Orlando now. So all right. So I did tease some items in the thumbnail. So there's gonna be some deep cuts here. There's gonna be things that were really odd. They weren't around for a while. Then there'll be some things that I think were pretty obvious. So you can see in the thumbnail, there's some things on there that you might know or you might not know. So with that being said, we are going to get into top 10. You are my guest, Anthony. So you are going to go first. We are going to start at number 10. And your number 10 was funny because I totally forgot about it. Totally forgot that you had it, but you did have all of them, well, most of them. And I always thought they were cool because it was different, but we'll get to it. So with that being said, we'll get to your top 10 and then I'll let you talk about it. So what do we have here?
Yeah, so here we have WMAC Masters. Um, you have their Thunderdome or Arena Place. I believe it was the Thunderdome. So I love these figures. Now, I this was kind of on TV. I want to say you had like WWF Superstars, you had American Gladiators, and then you had WMAC Masters, all one right after the other. And I loved the show. I watched it all the time. When the toys came out, I was super excited. So, like you see in the picture there, every guy came with a little pendant. And when you beat the opponent, you got a pendant to add to your belt. So I had a bunch of these. I was able to go up in my attic and pull one down. I got Tiger Claw here. Not my favorite guy, but it was definitely a cool one. My favorite of the line was actually one that I've never had. His name was Tsunami, and I went and tried to get him off eBay, but he is unaffordable.
So
Um,
wait, you still have all of those?
I have all the ones that I had as a kid, yeah, except I don't have the play sets. But I have all the figures, so I wanted to make sure I grabbed at least one.
Here, hold them up again. I'll make you big.
Yeah. So this is Tiger Claw here.
Oh my god, I
Uh,
remember him.
yeah, yeah. So like I said, I absolutely love the line, love the show. Just looking at this guy is giving me all the feels, right? Um, I actually went on YouTube not too long ago because they have full episodes of the show on YouTube, and I have to say it's awful. I'm not really sure, um, how what we thought was good about it because it's a pretty awful show.
I,
Um,
I
but
remember was it on Sunday, like in the afternoon, or did it have like a prime time spot?
no, it was Sunday afternoons. It was like 12 o'clock Superstars, 1 o'clock American Gladiators, 2 o'clock WMAC Masters. Now, along with the figures, I also had this Battle Dome. I had like a Western themed um, set and like a cave set or dungeon set or something like that. Great line. So my number 10. And this is definitely a deep cut for sure. Definitely a deep cut.
And what I remember, the comparison I'll make is that I'll say two things. One, this was kind of like feeding off of that like Mortal Kombat kind of, you know, fighting tournament, but it was also something that I would correct me if I'm wrong. This time period, I think at this point with WWF wrestling figures, there wasn't much. This is either before the Attitude Era or leading into it, but at that point, the only thing you can really get was a ring with WWF figures. So this was kind of the first time we saw all these other scenes with playsets. And I think later on, that's where we started getting like the announcers podium with WWE. You started getting like backstage sort of props. Am I kind of on the right track, or were those things already out
I
already?
I don't think those things came out yet. I think we were right around the time where the Hasbro figures kind of ended, and we went to Bendems, which weren't super popular. Um, this might have been around the Bone Cruncher era, where there weren't many play sets, but the Bone Crunchers were around. Um, and they had a ring that was like bigger than the figures, so it was the monster ring, and it didn't quite fit. Um, but yeah, so these guys kind of filled a little bit of a void, I guess, in terms of action figures. Um, Wrestling wasn't super popular during that era.
Mhm.
That new generation era was kind of not as popular as it was in the golden age or prior to the Attitude Era.
But Mortal Kombat was huge, and that's why I made that comparison, because I remember the machine was actually in Mortal Kombat. I think he gets killed real quick by I forgot who fights him. I think it was Liu Kang, but he gets his soul taken. But that was that same guy, so they were kind of crossing over into that, which is funny. He's starring in a Mortal Kombat movie, but then doing kind of the daytime TV version of it that was like less violent, more in line with American Gladiators.
Yeah, and looking at this photo, I have every one of those figures still, except Tsunami, who was my favorite, and he's actually right next to Tiger Claw in there. So
Sweet.
yeah, great number 10. All the feels for this guy.
I totally forgot. I totally forgot that they existed, but then I also forgot about the pendants that came out too. I forgot that you can do that. So obviously, I'm a huge turtle fan, but I didn't want to put turtles really low on or as like a top pick, just because it's like water. You know, you need water. We always needed turtles in the collection, so they were always there. But specifically, I put the rock and rolling turtles, mainly because I don't really remember ever getting any turtles as a present. We just had them. I do remember getting these, and I remember they were already open. Our mother used to like to take things out of the package and kind of pack them in a present box like loose. So I do remember kind of opening like like a shoebox, and all the figures, everything was there. All the figures were there, all the accessories were there. And I think we have, I wish I could have found it for the stream. I think we did. We have a picture of us opening a box, and they were all just in there. And these are still some of my favorite turtles till this day. And I didn't know that they had a bus, so I have the tour bus now. It's missing a few pieces, but I think these are some of the cooler versions of the turtles in different outfits. They were really the Barbie of boy toys for all the different outfits that they had. But the card backs are pretty cool, and I don't think I've ever had them or seen them carded. But I have all four. I think I'm missing accessories for a few. But yeah, just really cool variations of the turtles.
So I actually, within maybe the last 2 years, bought the bus, a beat 'em up bus, barely any pieces. I scrubbed it clean. I actually put new stickers on it. It looked cool. I actually tracked down an extra speaker. I had one and I got another one. So now I have both. The only thing my bus is missing is the flags. Now, I do have to say I am a bit disappointed because I ended up going out and buying all 4 of these mint on card, to display on the bus. I took them out off the card really, really carefully because I wanted to keep the cards. I actually do have the cards in a bin, because I just thought the artwork was so cool. And Donatello and Leonardo's legs both fell off out the package. So I guess used figures are better, like played with figures are in better shape than a 30-year-old figure in the package, because these things crumbled like nothing. Like, I was so disappointed.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking up photos for the slideshow, I found a lot of pictures of Leo with no legs. So seems like a pretty common thing. But I mean, the ones that I still have all the ones from when we were kids, they're all fine. Like they're all pretty in good condition. So I guess if you were moving the legs and they weren't getting stiff, they tended to fare a little better. But I wish we knew the bus existed back then. But I feel like maybe when these came out, this was towards the end of our turtle collecting, because there was a point in time where we just didn't get any new turtles. I think probably the newest turtles that you or I got were Half Court or maybe Walkabout, and then slowly started transitioning to other toy lines.
Yeah, yeah. Half court was great. I mean, you probably still have that one.
I have them. Is yours?
Yeah, him and Walkabout were two of my favorite, I think, from the whole line.
Well, I'm keeping them safe over here. I have them in my turtle box. So,
Excellent. Appreciate it.
all right. Let's see. We're gonna go over to the next option for our countdown. Going on number 9, and I think that number 10 was the only one I remembered off the top of my head. So I don't even remember what your number 9 is, even though I put the slides together. So let's find out together. Oh, this was a good one. This was a
Yeah.
really good one.
So, I mean, this thing right here, I think, defined our childhood. I mean, we played with this thing nonstop, whether it was the tabletop hockey, the pool. I remember you used to put the pockets in because the pockets came out. Everything stored in one thing. We played table tennis. This thing was great. I loved this thing, and oddly enough, mommy still has the ping pong table.
Yeah,
Um,
she used it to paint on.
yeah. So that thing is well over 30 years old at this point. But this was awesome. We had such a good time messing with this thing. And when you said this top 10, uh, favorite Christmas gifts, this was it shot right out at me. So
And it's funny because I was trying to think of a top 10, and this one it didn't come straight to mind until you said it. And then when you said it, I was like, yeah, this one had a lot of mileage. I remember a few things. One, the commercial was awesome. It was two kids in a basement, just they were playing pool, playing ping pong, and then they start playing the table hockey. And then the mom opens the door to the basement and she's like, all right, kids, time to go to bed. So she shuts the lights off, and then the hockey table glows in the dark. And so and this was for a Fisher Price item. And you don't see Fisher Price items sold to older kids. This was a really cool one. I remember us during Christmas time when we had to move furniture around to get the tree, we would take it apart and then kind of fold it up, and the legs came off. So sad that we didn't I think there was a point where we actually were too big for it. Like it was just pretty big. I wish I found pictures of the glow in the dark hockey, but there wasn't really good pictures. But there was this one where you actually scored, and the scoreboards actually lit up, which was pretty cool.
wow. So just looking at the chat, Mike wants to know the age difference. So it's 2 years, 2.5 years.
Like 2.5 years.
Yeah, not much.
Mike's a good friend. We go toy hunting sometimes.
Good deal, Mike.
So yeah, this was a good one. And then like everything fit in those pockets, which is really cool. There's little slots like the balls go on. And in hindsight, like the pool balls were the size of like ping pong balls.
Yeah, they were super small. And just looking at this, it's funny because it's air hockey, but it wasn't air.
That's true. Nothing really like blew out from the sides or the bottom, right?
No, it just slid, but it slid really smoothly. But yeah, nothing here was air. It wasn't necessarily an air hockey.
Yeah, I remember later on we got like a foosball table, but at that point, I don't think we were really playing with it all too much. Nothing quite like how much we played with this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But and I think they might have re-released this eventually. That did include a foosball table. I'm not sure, but at that point we would have been too old. So that's your number 9. My number 9 are the BC Bikers. And do you remember these?
Oh, well, absolutely.
One, I put these on here because they were just always fun, and I had to put it on here kind of to rub it in a little bit because I broke yours day one on Christmas Day. I broke one of the wheels off your motorcycles. I remember you being so pissed. But we still kept the dinosaurs. We might have some of them lying around somewhere. But the bikes, I don't know. Those got lost super fast. They weren't made very well. And there's not much about these guys online. Like there's very few. I think we were missing one, but I think the pterodactyl guy on the left with the spiky horns, well, the 2 spiky horns, I think he was the one that came with the green motorcycle. He was my favorite. I broke the one of yours. I think it had like it had like training wheels, and I broke one of the training wheels. And I remember you were just
And
super
you can kind of see it in the picture. It's like that gray. It's almost like it didn't touch the ground, and it was like the gray wheel, which was what kind of you pulled it back and probably shot it across. If that makes sense.
Michael, thank you for the super chat. He says, please give Crossfire an honorable mention. We never had Crossfire, but that commercial was on nonstop.
And now I'm singing the song Crossfire.
Yeah, it always comes up. But those kids always looked like they were having a good time, and like they were on the green screen where they were like riding the piece.
Shooting metal balls at each other. It sounds kind of dangerous,
though. Michael, let me know in the chat if you had Crossfire, because we never did. I don't even know what the game was about. I just remember the commercial was super cool.
I almost feel like it was like an adult-ish Hungry Hippos kind of, not adult, but like older kid Hungry Hippos type of game where you kind of shot the beads.
I would say it's like
something.
It was like the retro version of Beyblades. I think that's what the kids play with.
Yeah.
You know, where you have to shoot the pellets at the disc, the rolling disc that's going around, which I think that's sort of like what Beyblades is. Plus those beads were fun to chuck. Nice. But BC Bikers, you know, we were so used to turtles at the time with that anthropomorphic style. There was just always some sort of humanoid animal coming out. So these were some of them that I really liked. I'm sorry I broke yours so long ago.
No, these were cool. Like if I'm not mistaken, they were like squishy plastic, like rubber.
They were almost like rubber. Yeah.
They weren't solid, so I guess they did break pretty easily.
And I don't know how people find this information out. There was someone online that did a video on them, and they were talking about the creator who was just trying to kind of get something out to market, because this was right either before or after Dinosaurs the show, and right after or before Jurassic Park. So dinosaurs were hot at that time. So they were just trying to kind of get into like turtles were hot, dinosaurs were hot. Let's mix it together. I don't think these really took off and set the world on fire like they wanted to, but we still had fun with them. I know that the bikes are long gone. We might have one of those dinosaurs laying around somewhere, but I don't have them.
Yeah, I didn't see them in my bin. I would have pulled it.
All right, number 8. Do you remember what number 8 is off the top of your head?
I'm pretty sure it's that rod hockey, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
So, I mean, for me, we had an older version that wasn't this one. It was just regular hockey players that were flat and not like 3-dimensional figures. And we played with that quite a bit. When we got this. This is when we were both very much into playing roller hockey. And we would go and play in the yard and skate around and play. And then we got this thing, and the colors were bright. The figures were, neon green, neon red. The pucks were green and red. This was just really cool. Now, I enjoyed this set. I don't remember you enjoying it all that much. Like, I feel like I definitely spent many times playing with this by myself. Spin the rod on one end and then go to the other side and spin the rod and play like by myself. Um, but
It's
this
not
was
fun when you lose all the time. So yeah, no.
get better, bro.
But this was also around the time like Mighty Ducks was huge. Just inline skating was big, so everyone had rollerblades. And then eventually we did start playing roller hockey for a league. I think I scored one shot in every game.
I did
Or
too, and I didn't even know I did it. Now, what I thought was cool is that most people's roller blades, the wheels were actually these colors. A lot of people had like lime green wheels or neon red wheels. So I think it really hit on people that skated and stuff like that. So cool.
yeah, this was actually really hard to find pictures for. There's not much out there about these. But I think this is a Wayne Gretzky, like slapped his name on it. I didn't realize this was like part of his brand, but this is like a Wayne Gretzky product.
Yeah, when we were putting the list together, I was Googling every single combination of street hockey, and it just wasn't coming up. And then when I said it to you, because I wanted to send you the picture of it and to be like, oh man, that's awesome. And then eventually I was just like, I give up. Here it was. And then you found it in the second you sent it out. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean these type of games, I think they're still around, but I don't know how popular they are. But there was a Turtles one. I think we did have just kind of the run of the mill regular one, but this one with the colors and the street kind of scene, the fence around it, it was a little more eye catching. And I think I would always be the green team
Yeah.
because you probably didn't want to have that fight. But
Well, I'm going to say these are still pretty popular. Costco is actually selling a bubble hockey. Basically the same thing, just with the bubble. And a couple of the arenas I've recently visited had a bunch of them set up where you could kind of just walk up and play. So I'm going to say they're still pretty popular.
yeah, that's cool. I mean, and it was so much. It was a different take on foosball, right? Because you can spin them. I remember you used to like you can wind your figure up to kind of slap the puck. So that was really cool. No, these were great, and I don't know when we lost this one, but I don't remember. I remember it being there, and I don't remember when it was gone.
Yeah, no, I have no recollection of when that disappeared.
Let's see. Was the 90s. Everything was neon in the early 90s. Too bad they never made a line of figures of all-star cartoons for Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, and Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, that'd been cool.
So that's cousin Mike.
It is.
This is your fishy. Just making sure we give him his due.
All right. I don't remember what my number 8 is, so let's go ahead and see. All right. Do you remember these?
I do not remember these at
You,
all.
you don't remember these?
I do not.
All right.
No.
So Anthony and I, back when we were younger, we were in dance school, which at the time I hated. But once a year they would do like a Christmas grab bag, where your parents would put a gift in, and then it was kind of like a mini Christmas party at the dance studio. And I remember that year Power Rangers were huge. Like they were just all over the place, and we really wanted Power Rangers that Christmas. And when it was probably like 2 weeks before Christmas, and I remember opening my grab bag, and the Power Rangers weren't there. The Sonic Rangers were there. And I, I remember this had to be so 94, 93 or 94. Like I'm 6 years old, and I knew these were bootleg. Like these are not. I was like, these are knockoffs. I was like, these are not Power Rangers. um, Christmas came around and we got all the Power Rangers. We got all the flip heads.
Flip heads. Yeah.
But I was already playing with these guys for like 2 weeks. They had all the same colors that Power Rangers had. These are called the Sonic Rangers. They were from whatever version of the Dollar Tree or Dollar Store was back in the day. So they're very inexpensive. Um, but eventually these things grew on me so much that, sometimes I would play with the Power Rangers, but sometimes I'd play with these things that didn't cost all that much money, but they looked cool, even though they were kind of copying the diamond motif and the colors. They lit up by that button on their belt. I put the red one there because his visor was the only one that lit up green. And I thought that was really cool. And each one came with a shield, blaster, and a sword. And I love them. On the aftermarket now, some of these are really pricey. So it's crazy. Like some of the third-party stuff is so sought out that, at the time when I was like, man, these are bootlegs, I wish I had all of them now because I love them. I appreciate them so much more now. But it's just funny, like at a young age, you're like, this is not the same. But you don't remember these at all. You might not have had these.
Looking at them though, I mean, they do look familiar. I see the visor, right? Can't sleep on dollar store toys, man. Remember they had the whole dollar store kind of wrestling line, um, which for $1 you got all these weird characters. I
Like the
believe
mini ones?
no, they were big. I want to say they were like Remco style figures, and I'm paying a lot of money for figures that are that style now. So
Yeah, I mean, there's like those dollar store. It was the He-Man body, basically. I
right,
had a Rambo back in the day, but like they were making all figures in that same mold, and we weren't Motu collectors, but if we were, and you wanted characters that were not part of the original line, you could have gone to the Dollar Tree or Dollar Store at any point and found those. I don't have them anywhere on the list, but trolls were huge at that time. I didn't put them on the list because I don't know if we ever got them for Christmas. Um, but I remember Battle Trolls, Stone Protectors. I remember getting bootleg Trolls at the Dollar Store as well,
yep,
and they were cool. Like they mixed right in, they fit well.
yeah. No, this is like I said, dollar store toys. I mean, those are pretty cool.
Yeah, these guys, I didn't put a picture up, but they even came with like little mechs, kind of like little Megazords too. So they didn't make a big one, but they made them like little rubber ones. So you knew that they had mechs, just kind of like the Power Rangers did too.
Did they make any villains?
They did, and I don't think we ever got those. I think what those were, and we'll have to ask mom about it, but I think it was really a way to hold us over till Christmas.
Right.
Just be like, well, I hope you're not expecting those for this Christmas party because you're going to have them Christmas morning.
Yeah, that
So,
it makes a lot of sense.
yeah. And it's funny. I still have those Power Rangers, but I do wish I held on to those Sonic Rangers too. Number 7, you want to call it out before it
Yeah.
shows the slide?
So number 7 for me is definitely going to be some Mighty Max. Um, and I mean, I love the fact that you put these ones out because I went up in the attic, scouring my attic, looking for some figures, and here is the skull. I didn't open it until just now, and I realized Mighty Max is not here. Um, so hopefully he's in the bin somewhere. But this is the dungeon with the evil scientist, the hunchback scientist. Great. I mean, I loved these little play sets. Um, we had so many of these, and when I was in the attic, I definitely pulled out a couple of these. Um, but these are great. So the skull. I love that they compact. We had a shark, we had a dragon. Um, and then here I have the snake. And before we started this, I opened it up and then showed you the struggle of trying to get it back together. So I'm going to open it now and then close it later. This one does have Mighty Max in there, so he's in, It also has. I don't remember this guy's name, but he was super popular in the cartoon. I have no idea what his name is.
Virgil?
Was that what was Virgil?
Either he was Virgil or the owl was Virgil.
But this set is pretty sweet, and then just like the detail of these things, like right here, this is like a secret compartment. Um, I don't know how it opens, but my adult hands won't open it. But that Sphinx opens up and leaves like a secret compartment. So these were definitely cool. Um, how do we know who's on this thing? Because while Mighty Max was popular for boys, Polly Pocket was popular for girls, and I actually bought Maria a Harry Potter Polly Pocket for Christmas, so she'll be opening that up tomorrow.
Well, I think Polly Pocket probably definitely came out first. I don't know if this is the same company.
Polly
I need,
Pocket definitely came out first, from what I remember.
and do we know if they were the same company?
I would have no clue.
I want to say that they were, just because on the actual playset when it's closed, Polly Pocket it said PP
Right.
with the initials, and Mighty Max has the same thing. Does it on the ones you have? Does it have the initials?
Yep.
Yeah. So
They were made by a company called Bluebird.
Bluebird,
Yeah. I don't know if you could see it. Bluebird.
which I don't know if that was the same as Mighty Polly Pocket, but mini play sets, and I think Polly Pocket probably started it, or maybe something we'll talk about later might have started it, but the trend of mini play sets like took off, and there was a few good ones. Mighty Max was probably the one that we started with, but eventually Turtles came out with their own version. Those were not necessarily friendly to like walk around with. Like these we could actually put in our pocket, but when the Turtles came out, they were a little chunkier.
Yeah.
The X-Men ones, those were super cool. The front looked like the comic book. I love those. I have all the mini figures still
Hmm.
from the X-Men, but we don't have any of the
Those
we don't have
figures
any
were big,
of the
weren't they?
comic books. Huh?
Those figures were big.
Yeah, I still have them all.
Like that was a bigger play set.
Which ones?
The X-Men ones. It wasn't quite as small as this, right?
They were just this. They were the shape of a comic book, so they were rectangular, and they were maybe like 1 inch thick, so they could still technically fit in your pocket, just like these can.
Right.
But like I had a Batman mini playset that was the Batman Forever Batmobile. It was cool because they're still fitting this like scene in this playset into the small package. But we lived in a small apartment at the time. We had big playsets already, so I think as the years went on, and these mini options were coming out, it was probably better suited for us because it's like, well, we can get more of this stuff, and I think they had a lot of play value, but we couldn't necessarily keep getting these giant play sets like the Lair, the Ghostbuster Firehouse. There was just so many big things that the mini play set I think kind of took over, but they were more accessible and probably not something that needed to take up a lot of space.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know when it was, I'm pretty sure McDonald's did mini Mighty Max and Polly Pockets. So I guess when you ordered a Happy Meal, they asked if you wanted a boy Happy Meal or a girl Happy Meal, and you either got a Polly Pocket or a Mighty Max.
I remember we got the Abominable Snowman from McDonald's. It was cool, but it was also kind of lame because it had the same great sculpt on the outside. You open it up, there was a scene. Mighty Max was fixed to the playset. Like they probably couldn't give that little piece for like choking hazard reasons, but I remember he was just attached to the base. He was on some kind of like spinning play feature, but it was still kind of cool that they did it.
Yep.
I would love like a 6-inch scale version of the characters. I know that kind of defeats the purpose of Mighty Max, but
Also not cheap to go rebuy.
No,
These things are expensive.
I know our Aunt Karen was in the chat. Billy, our cousin Billy,
The mountain. Didn't he have the
he
mountain?
had the volcano, and I think that volcano was the only way that you can get the owl character and the major villain at the time. I could be wrong about that.
Good
I
show too.
Oh, it was cool. The animation was great. All right, so this was your number
7.
seven.
Yeah.
All
Or
right,
6.
my number 7 is Legends of Batman. And I remember the Christmas that we got these. I remember where we had Christmas that day. Like, that's how vivid of a memory I have about these figures. Because I remember we put them in a big bag, took them over to the person's house that we were having Christmas at. And I remember just kind of laying them all out and playing with them. And for me, these are significant because this was the first time that we've had tons of Batman figures, from the Keaton Batman, Batman Returns, and it was that kind of skinny, small, style figure. This is the first time that they bulked Batman up. They gave us some characters that were probably never made before, like Nightwing and Asbat, Nightfall Batman. But they came in this pre-pose too, which made them pretty cool. And these figures were awesome. I have all 3 of these figures right now, like from childhood. I didn't rebuy these. Like I just have them.
Yeah.
And some other ones. But for me, I think being so used to those like skinny figures, finally getting Batman that looks bulky and big. These were some of my favorites. Nightwing was yours, but now he's mine.
Yeah. When I was in the attic, I felt like I found one Batman that might have been part of this series. He almost looked like he was like playing, not playing, like jousting or
Yeah, that was yours. That was wasn't Crusade. It might have been Crusader Batman. I know exactly what he's in, like a lunging pose. He
yeah,
has a
yeah,
spinning feature on his back where his wrist spins.
maybe not jousting. With
I think it is sort of like a jousting one. But they did all kinds of wacky stuff. They did I don't have it was like first
fencing.
night Robin, but I have first mate Robin. It was like
Fencing is the word. Fencing.
fencing, yeah.
It was like
And I
a
remember that one came with a shield too.
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess at the time there were comics based around, like, obviously there was Nightfall, the storyline Nightfall, but there was stories around Batman and some kind of Age of Pirates, because I remember at that time they came out with a Pirate Joker, Pirate Robin, and then a Pirate Batman. So it was not quite Turtles where they were just doing things for the sake of doing them. I think there was actually storylines behind it. But then this is also the first time where you started getting characters like Bane. You started getting like Scarecrow. We never had those figures, but I remember the Scarecrow in the commercial. Like, you squeezed his legs and he like spun around. He had the big Reaper staff. Really cool. So, yeah, I still have all these figures. I wish I had some of their accessories, but
Great packaging too.
it was really cool. And
Card.
these are not, and you could pretty much buy these now. Like, these are not expensive.
Yeah, I think I recently bought an old Batman. I don't remember which one exactly, but I paid $5 on eBay for them, new and packaged. So
Yeah, I mean, old Kenner is kind of fun to collect, whether it's Batman or kind of other lines. There might be some that are hard, but I think they just made so much of this stuff. One that was kind of coinciding with this one was Marvel Toy Biz at the time. But I think these had more of a significance in terms of like the styling of the figures. I love those Marvel X-Men or superheroes, but I think this was where we started to see Batman kind of make a change, especially in toys. Because then this toy line, I would argue, I collected a toy line called the Total Justice toy line.
hmm
And that was the pre-posed, more muscle type figures. And I think this is kind of the predecessor to that.
oh yeah, for sure.
All right, number 6.
Now I don't remember. I don't remember what my number 6 is. So click away.
I spent all last night putting these together, and I don't remember what any of them are because I did this at like 1 in the morning. So your number 6 is, oh, there you go.
Oh man. So
This is a fun one.
I mean, now all of these, well, most of these figures are ripoffs of other lines, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I know the Treehouse for sure was Star Wars,
A lot of
um,
reuse.
but this playset was awesome. I
Hmm.
mean, the accessories. What made me put this on my list is we were 100% complete on this line. Every figure, um, every vehicle, and the treehouse. I mean, this thing was awesome, and I still have every one of these figures. Um, Missing stuff, but here is Robin Hood. Um,
Oh, you still have the soft goods?
yeah, yeah. He and it was on him already, and I found the other one because he was released twice in the line. Um, and the other one, and then this one popped in, and I popped up, and I was like, "Oh man, I got to show this one." But you definitely know that this was like reused. You could see like they didn't paint his like wrist gauntlet there.
Well, that was
Um,
Green Arrow.
yeah, so it was definitely reused. But I got to say, like, not for nothing, but that's pretty solid likeness there.
Oh, I'll put you up. Yeah, I think they went pretty well on his likeness.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. Now, I did pull out the sheriff, and he has his cape and everything still. Um, that don't
Yeah.
really look like sheriff, but
Do you
but
know who that is?
no.
So it actually, I think that is a RoboCop villain.
Oh, maybe.
So there's not that line. I think they needed to pull it together real quick. I think the sheriff of Nottingham
This is
is
great.
part of a as oh, I'll get you up again. I think he is part of a RoboCop line. I can't believe you still have the soft goods. That top for that Robin Hood, I think you might have them swapped. It might have to go to the other one.
Oh, I
But I
have no.
think that one came with like a brown cloak.
I don't. I mean, I've never taken this off, so. But yeah, these
Yeah.
are and then I had the other bad guy, and he had his helmet. I couldn't find his helmet, but when I saw these guys with their accessories, I was like, these two are coming down tonight. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the treehouse you could play with any figure. Um, this was just a really great time for toys too. Now, the one that I knew I couldn't find the soft goods um, was Friar Tuck. He's just like a little short, fat man. No,
Who, who was complete ripoff from a Star Wars figure. Trask Picture Show says favorite Christmas gift was my big Joe T Rex for Christmas 1994. Okay, the JP. Man, I had some Jurassic Park figures and I almost put them on the list. I didn't because I didn't collect that many of them, but I always wanted the dinosaurs. And I had a lot of figures from the Lost World. So I agree with your favorite. That's awesome. And all those dinosaurs had the battle damage, like the little bites in them. So you can like pull a piece of their skin off, which was pretty cool. And they all had that JP on the butt. Pretty cool. And I did put a few more photos here. I didn't know which characters you wanted to highlight. Yeah, later on,
there's not
this
many.
did,
What is there? Six.
I didn't realize we had all of them.
We have the whole. We had both of these.
But even these were reused from Ewoks.
Yep. Hmm.
But that launcher was cool. That launcher was really cool. When you shot it,
The
the
net.
net could capture one of your characters. Lots of catapults, the battering ram. I mean, you have an honorable mention later that came out almost exactly around the same time as this. So
Yep.
those figures went really well with these. I won't give it away, but it was always kind of cool to kind of play with both of those sets of figures in this world together. Because I think if I was playing with Robin Hood figures, I was playing with those other figures too that we'll get to.
They definitely crossed over, and I loved the battle wagon with the ladder and the shields. I mean, these were really cool.
Yeah. I think the thing that we kept on the longest was the treehouse. These things did not stand the test of time for
They
us, unfortunately.
pretty cheap plastic, but they were a lot of fun.
My number 6. We're still on number 6.
Number six. Yep.
All right. So Karate Fighters, I think these were the at the time the modern day 90s version of Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Um, we had these 2 years in a row, and each Christmas that we were looking forward to them. The first year, they're very manual. You hold the handle, you twist it, and they fight. And if you hit the character's emblem on their chest, then they popped off, and then whoever was remaining was the winner. You had the guy with the blue tank top and yellow pants. I had the Native American. He was my favorite to use because he came out of the box broken. And when I say broken, he had like a weird defect about him where he like couldn't stand up. So he was always hunched down. I never lost with him because of that.
So while I was in the attic, I think we still have every one of these guys. So I brought down a couple.
So he was part of the first 2-pack that you got.
Yeah, and I broke
And
down.
Now this is wave 2 that came out the following Christmas, and that handle had electronic noises. The characters can hold weapons.
Change the batteries, and we could next time you're around, we could battle. I have plenty more of these bottoms. I have plenty of figures. But when you hit, popped right off. So, and some of those guys. So I know in the picture you showed like that green turbo looking guy. I probably should have pulled him out. He actually had both of his weapons attached to his hands. So.
Yeah, I think that set was yours. I had the other set, and I can't picture what the ones I have with the weapons. I can't picture what they look like. At least, I had like it was like the tombstone looking guy.
Yeah, like a Frankenstein kind of looking.
And then I'm trying to think of who came with him, and I can't remember for the life of me.
And the bases were different. So we have two different types of bases. I think one actually had like a handle. But yeah, we have them. I mean,
yeah, I like the handle of version 1 better. Those were version 2.
Yeah.
But the difference was those came with the noises, and they had the score. Can you pull up the scoring on it? So did it go up to like 10?
Went up to 5.
5. So when I use my character, the Native American guy, I never lost with him because of his defect. I remember being sad that he was kind of broken, but then like he never lost. And I was like, great, because he's hunched down, so he's always protecting that emblem right there.
I mean, these figures are just like you can't really do much with them, not on those stands, but like these are pretty cool ninjas.
The ninjas were cool, and I remember it was always kind of crappy. Like you had to mail away for the black ninja, but like you didn't have enough. I don't know if you had to like add money to it, but
so I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that. I was trying to. I didn't do research on it, but I was thinking about it, and I felt like it had like proof of purchase points. But in order to like get those figures, you had to buy multiple sets because they didn't have enough sets to.
There was only 2, and the first year there was only 2, and to get that ninja, I think the other guy that came with the Native American was like it was like a bald guy with a ponytail. He's kind of wearing like some weird outfit, and he had like face paint on his eyes. I can't remember who came with the tombstone guy, but
yeah,
it was a cool guy, and I remember he came with like that was like around the time when they were holding weapons.
Yeah, well, next time you come, we'll go up in the attic and we'll bring out our karate fighters and have at it.
They were great, and these things kept going on for years. I think at this point we were already kind of over them, but for 2 Christmases in a row, I was excited to get these, and I remember getting them. They were awesome, and we had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, we probably have about 8 of them, right? I mean, I would say probably 8.
Yeah, because we had two sets each.
Yeah.
So you like that one in the background you had.
Yeah.
Cyber Fist and Tiger Ninja.
Well, Cyber Fist definitely still has his weapons attached to his hands. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I can't remember who my other guy was, but anyway. On to number 5. Do you remember?
Nope. I remember the last couple, but
All right.
I remember the middle is kind of.
You said G.I. Joe. I didn't know which era to put, so I
So
kind of tried to like spread it out.
I mean, GI Joe for me was so nostalgic. I mean, they went on forever. You know, the regular Joes. I believe you have them all. I don't have any of them here. Um,
I have them all in my closet.
the vehicles were fantastic. I mean, the command center. I know you posted a video earlier, or a couple days ago. We had with those little mini boxes. We actually had this thing twice. Um, I wanted a third time. Um, but so and there were so many iterations of Joe's. I mean, this from the first, iterations of what we had, um, to GI Joe Extreme, which I have a bunch of those still in the attic. And then today's stuff from Hasbro. And yesterday I just got Storm Shadow in.
Uh-huh.
And this figure, I mean, this I love this figure. We had this as a kid, so now to have it in a larger form, someone's bitter in the chat, um, about this command center. Thank you, appreciate you. Some other kids are playing with it now, but
That's landfilled.
just just love GI Joe. Still do. What I love about the new line is that I'm not really going buying new guys. I'm just buying bigger, better versions of the ones that I had.
Yeah, I kind of do both. I had that Storm. I waited for that Storm Shadow version too. Original Joe fans, I mean, they definitely hate version 2. They hate. I don't want to say they hate. I want to talk about everybody. Ninja Force is definitely something that original Joe fans, it's not their cup of tea. But you didn't. I remember you got these, and this is a weird memory. You got these for your birthday, so it wasn't for Christmas. But the Ninja Force ones, you had them. I didn't, and I always thought they were cool as hell. Like I wish I had them. I'm waiting for this version of Zartan to come out, and I know like 2 versions of Zartan have already come out, but
Right.
I want this version. Like I want the neon version,
So those would be awesome.
and also for those people that didn't collect Ninja Force, I think we kind of shied away from GI Joe because a lot of the older figures were falling apart. Those figures were starting to be made better, and I think the Ninja Force figures they were made tighter limbs. They had different kind of construction where they just felt like more quality.
Yeah.
So I love them. Uh, Cousin Mike in the chat. I had to tell him the story of how we got his mobile command center because I remember ours was long gone,
Yeah.
and then I don't know if maybe his parents gave it away without telling him. We acquired his mobile command center, played with it, and then that one disappeared again. So
I
then we
mean,
lost it.
we didn't walk out of his house with that thing. It was massive.
No, I mean like it was obviously someone gave it to us, but um, um, and then I think I still have that other character, the pilot. I think his name is oh man, Dogfight.
Yeah. The funny thing too is we didn't have, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't have any of like Duke or Scarlet. Like we didn't have Destro.
Mm-mm.
Um, we had all like the supplement characters. I mean, my
Yeah,
favorite guy that I remember I played with, I don't know his name. Maybe it was Hardball, and he was, he had like a blue baseball cap, a white shirt, and like that was one of the guys that I played with the most. And it was like,
I almost put his picture on there. So
yeah,
I have this little tank. Hold on.
Hardball in there.
No, he's not in here. But on Amazon, this says 112 scale. This is not 112 scale.
You
And
made me buy this and return it, and buy it and return it.
I don't know nothing. They've come out with a Night Creeper, but I'm waiting for this version of Night Creeper.
That was an awesome figure.
I think this was like my only ninja. His legs are still so tight.
Yeah, that's a great figure.
So they already have the mold. I'm confident that they would come out with him again. And then, so I keep him in the tank. And then one of my favorite GI Joes that I'm hoping they come out with, because they haven't had a Coast Guard character yet, is Cutter. And I remember loving him
Oh yeah,
because he was the Mets colors. I think he wore a Boston hat in the show,
yeah.
but this version
You can just see
was
how tight his screws are. Like he's super solid.
like he's not wiggling at all.
Yeah,
This is part of a line like the drug enforcement policy line. They actually had that on the package. And then one of the villains was the drug dealer. Like,
now I remember cousin Nicholas. He had, I think, so many more Joes than we had. But he had multiple trucks, like covered trucks that you could sit all the guys in. And I remember going over his house, and I wish he was on this because he would remember. Like we used to draft figures, like you pick one, I pick one, you pick one, I pick one, and then I used to love setting them up in the car, in the trucks, and like we would fight and battle. It was so much fun.
well, I remember that about going to their house. I think at that point, like we probably had all the Joes that we had, but they kept collecting Joes.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of the big neon play sets, a lot of the Street Fighter, the Mortal Kombat, which we had too, but they had some other ones that we didn't have. So when we would go over, we kind of mixed figures. I'll never forget, they used to have like all those shelves in their basement, and I climbed them, and then all the shelves just like went right back on top of me. They had to pry that thing off. But yeah, I mean, GI Joe, I knew would probably make it on the list somewhere. I didn't put it on mine because I felt like this is probably more your era, even though I had my fair share of Joe. I'm having a lot of fun with the line now, just because, again, like you, I don't need to collect everything. So it's just, this one looks cool. I'll get it. There's a few characters I'm waiting for, like the ones I just showed, but other than that, it's really just the ones that kind of speak to me.
Yeah, I also remember we had like an orange. He was like orange camouflage guy. I really liked him. I would love for Hasbro to come out with him, and you know,
Yeah, I just looked him up the other day. I forgot his name, but I
what
almost used Scoop in the photos. I know Scoop was one of your favorites.
Scoop? Which
I
one is
guess
that?
he wasn't your favorite then. Never mind.
I mean, I don't know their names. Like I'm still
Scoop had like the yellow shirt and hunter green pants, or vice versa.
okay.
Yeah. So this is number 6 or 5.
Yeah,
All right.
number 5.
I put the original Toy Story action figures. I remember where I got these first. It was a friend's mom that gave me a few of these for Christmas. I don't know if you remember my friend James, but his wife, his mother, Shantine, she gave me like one of these, and then I needed to have the rest for Christmas. So I had most of the figures. Before I apologize for breaking your BC Biker, but you did break my Woody figure, and
I feel like I remember him with scotch tape on his elbow.
because you broke him, man.
I didn't do it on purpose.
No, well, you body slammed me onto the couch where Woody was.
So you broke.
Well, no, you used my body to break the figure. Um, I'll never forgive that. But I did break your BC Biker, so I guess it's fine. This is the first time when I realized a movie was coming out that wasn't a cartoon, that was going to be computer animated. The movie came out, was amazing. But then the figures that I had these 3. I had Ham. If you watch the movie and if you listen to some of the sound effects, like even when Rex is walking, he kind of makes that clunky plastic noise. The figure made that noise. Like the sound Buzz made when you played with him made that feel of when you watch the movie. So like these were great figures. I remember the Christmas we got them. The Christmas we got these figures, also Burger King was doing a huge promotion on these. And those were also good figures in and of themselves. They did like regular kids meal toys, but I remember they did deluxe toys where it was Woody, Buzz, and they had Velcro attached to their palms, so you can like put their arms around each other, and then they would attach to an RC, so you can recreate the scene from the movie. And I remember just the whole promotion of Toy Story, fantastic. I put the action figures on here, but really it's just holistically. I remember that Christmas. I remember getting the Buzz from the Burger King Kids Club, and we were setting up the tree. I remember throwing him into the tree like he was flying. So these are definitely a top Christmas figure for me.
94.
Probably about 94, 95.
Yeah.
But these are fun. I don't know where these went. Actually, no. I think when our sister was born, she took my Buzz figure, but I think Rex was long gone. Ham, Woody, long gone.
Ham had a coin that used to pop up, right?
You used to press his cork on the bottom, and the coin would pop up
Yeah.
from the top. I actually do have a Ham piggy bank somewhere, so that was cool. But yeah, these were great figures, and this was also around the time where fast food promotions were sometimes just as good as the toys you were getting in the stores.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, number 4. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I can remember
5.
your number 4. I think it is. Yep, Ghostbusters. I didn't want to say it because then if I ruin it, it sucked.
So Ghostbusters, I mean, they were fantastic. I love them, and I love that you put some of these pictures on, because I brought down these guys, and these were, you put them in the freezer,
The Slimed Heroes.
and they slimed.
Yeah.
These were great. If you look at a couple, I mean, it's definitely going to be impossible to see, but if you look at them, you could actually see like where the slime would be. Like, can you see that? I think
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
can see it.
yeah. So like if you put them in, I mean, I have to put these things in the freezer for sure and test them out. One other one that I brought down, and actually our mom is in the chat right now, is Egon. Egon's tie is broken, but I was a young kid. Um, I I have no idea how old I was, but I don't know if it was take your look, the action still works. I don't know if it was like take your child to work day, but I went to work with our mother, and she somehow got us onto the set of the filming of the movie. And I have a picture, and we when we were cleaning out my attic last month or a month and a half ago, we found the picture of me and Egon, and he's holding me, and I have his figure in my hand. And I mean, it's one of my favorite things that I have. Now he's not around anymore, because I remember when the movie, before the new movies came out, I was thinking, man, how cool would it have been to have gone to like an autograph signing and had him sign this picture of him holding me, while I'm holding him, right? But great line. I mean, we have a ton of them. This firehouse was classic. Once again, in your other video, you talked about the blue rail. We weren't allowed to play with it much because, we used to wrestle and that was a weapon. Um, so our mother took it away. But the whole set in general was just great set. I mean, the Ecto one was awesome. The villains were great. Just awesome set. Love these figures.
What you should do, because you're starting to reset up all your figures now, right? I think you should. It would be cool if you frame that picture and you have the ghost version of Egon, right?
I do.
It'd be cool to kind of display that photo, ghost version of Egon, with your selfie series ghost, because you got yourself on a Ghostbuster body.
I do. Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to go in the attic and try to find that picture again. But
So the
across it definitely.
The wacky action features on Ghostbusters were like never my favorite. I don't think I realized you were holding that figure in the picture, so it probably holds like probably more of a special place in your heart. For me, like I like the slimed heroes; those were my favorite because
And
they
there
were
was
just
yeah.
no gimmicks. It was just the figure, right?
So
I
I think this was the first series, like the
was it.
first versions. Yeah, I still have all four of these guys. Um, and there was
I
another
have the
one.
toilet.
Yep, yep.
Um, and they re-released some of these recently. But the slimed heroes, like having that full set, because it was 5 of them. Because it was the Rick Moranis character. Damn. Either way, so the original 4 Ghostbusters didn't have that as a character option. So when you got the slimed heroes, you can complete the team with the 5 of them. So those were my favorite.
Yeah.
The wacky action ones I really wouldn't play with all too much, but I definitely love the Ghostbusters. I don't collect modern day Ghostbusters. I wish I did. I did not get the Ecto one. I wish I did.
I did not, and I don't feel bad about it. I do have the one that doesn't scale with them, but when it's up on a shelf, you couldn't tell the difference.
No.
That line was cool. I bought the original line, had them all, and wasn't planning on getting the Afterlife ones, and then saw the movie and was like, okay, I need these. So I got them all. Right now, they're all away right now because there's no room. But there was another, so they reused this mold um, for these figures, and I didn't bring them down, but they had a bunch of different paint. They were like, it was black, green, and purples, and they were
Like
pink.
stripes?
Yeah,
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 I remember those.
and those are still up there. So really, really cool. And the modern day figures are great too. So
Yeah. And again, like those still pretty affordable to get. I don't know what the retro figures go for. Like I don't know what the slime heroes go for nowadays, like in package. But they were so I think Peter was mine. So hold on to that one for me.
and they're in great shape. Like
Yeah.
every the Ghostbusters emblem is still like very visible. It's not torn like worn off or anything on all of them, right? Like you could see how good a shape these guys are in.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Ray was yours, Pete was mine. We had 2 Egons, 2 Winstons, and then 2 I can't remember his name, the Rick Moranis character.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know, but these were awesome. Love Ghostbusters. I mean, you know, good time.
Yeah. My number, what number are we on? 5 or 4? I forgot. I think we're on number 4. Was this haunted highway slot car racer. We had a slot car racer back in the day, but it was just kind of like your standard race car track. And then this one came out and was really cool. Um, I don't remember the Christmas we got this. I'll have to look back at what year this came out. But if you're not familiar with this was a racetrack. It was wired to the racetrack, the controller, and you couldn't push all the way down. You had to like do it slowly to control the vehicle, or else the vehicle would go flying off. This one had this like monster feature where the eyeball would teeter from side to side, and you had to avoid racing your car into that eyeball. So it had a really cool like gimmick to it. This is one of those things that I felt like was different. It stood out as a memory for me. I think we broke it like quickly. I don't think this lasted long. Like I feel like because our ham-handedness as kids, putting this thing together, we probably messed this thing up. But I don't remember having it long. But I remember when we did have it and we were playing with it and everything was working right. This thing was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I remember both. I remember the original one. I specifically remember the instruction manual, and it had like you could set up the track in all different shapes, whether it was just a circle or figure eight or something like that. It had stands where you could raise banks and raise and lower it, which was cool. And the original one that we had two cars. It was like two regular stock racing cars, and then we had a Batmobile. which was kind of weird. And these were just like a needle, and you put the needle in the track, and that's how the electrons, ran through. Um, and one thing I specifically remember about the original is our parents put a pencil eraser
Eraser, yeah.
so that we didn't pull the trigger all the way back. I guess
Is that what that was for?
yeah, so that they didn't like zip off the track. The
Hmm.
assumption, I guess, was they got tired of having to put it back on the track. So much the same of gluing Legos together. We weren't allowed to get the speed we needed to really beat the track because we had an eraser blocking our trigger.
That's why no Legos are on the set, because we'd wake up Christmas morning, they'd be all glued together. Our mom's listening right now. She's pissed.
That's why I brought it up. She's in the
Yeah.
chat. That's why I brought it up.
So,
But I remember this. This was fun. We had a really good time with this.
so when I was looking up photos to put together the slides, I found the Batman. It was it was the '60s Batmobile. That came from like an entirely different set. So I don't know where we got that Batmobile from. I did see you can purchase those slot cars like separately. So somewhere along the way, we got that extra car.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't know where.
No. No
But
idea.
this was a cool one. And if you're not familiar with this, if look up Haunted Highway toy commercial. The commercial's wacky. I think it's all claymation. It's pretty cool. Uh-oh.
There it is. We're in trouble.
I'm in trouble tomorrow. All right. On to the next. Number 3. All right. Narrowing down. Classic. When I did my list and then you sent me your list, I was like, why didn't I think of that?
So I am Santa from Florida has delivered presents to my house, and I'm pretty sure the 2024 Hess truck is under there. This is a toy that at almost 40 years old, I still get to today every single year. I love these things, and I don't do much with it now except take it out of the box and look at it and put it back in. Um, I think we were under the assumption that these things were collector's items. They hold no value
No value.
whatsoever. Um, and I couldn't find the ones from, um, I guess, 85 to like 90. I remember playing with it. I remember the first one I ever really played with was a bank, and I played with it till the wheels were gone, and it was just riding on the red rims. Um, and I played with these things so much. I mean, these things were so cool. If I have a couple $100, one year I'm going to take all 8 bins of these out of the attic, go buy a ton of D batteries, and fire them all up at the same time, and see what happens. But yeah, I'm probably about 40 deep in these things at this point. Actually, 42 because they had a couple special editions. So, um,
Yeah, and I mean, I was getting these for Christmas every year too, but I had to tell Santa to stop because I was living in a tiny apartment at the time. I didn't even know I had these in my house. I have 2 bins of these in my garage. Um, but these were great. One, the lights, the sounds. Each year was a new design, and they were just really cool. And they scaled well with figures. Like these scaled well with GI Joe. So when you extended those red ladders, that was always really cool. We only have one cop car. I remember that was funny because that was the one we fought over the most.
and I have it. It's in my bin.
But I remember pairing Police Academy figures with the cop car. Um, but I remember, and I could be wrong, the Hess trucks for you and me were not Christmas gifts. They were almost like a pre-Christmas gift. Like we would get these before the actual like date of Christmas. So for me, I always remember these like once you got the Hess truck, Christmas season has started. Do I have that? Like, did we get these on Christmas Day or did we get them before?
You may be right. I don't remember. I do remember though that Debbie, um, because they lived in Staten Island, would buy these um, for us, and I don't know if you know, mommy gave her the money for it or it was like our Christmas gift from Debbie, but she would tell mommy not to let us play with them. So Joey used to get a ton of toys. He had Power Rangers that he wasn't allowed to play with, and then he had Hess trucks that he wasn't allowed to play with. And I can't imagine not playing with these things.
Well, I remember our friend Joey came over with his Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Megazord. We were allowed to take it out of the box, look at it, put it together, and then it had to go right back in the box. Which that is probably worth tons of money right now. So if they actually kept it to sell, that one is probably worth money.
Speaking of tons of money, totally off topic, the mouse advent calendar thing. I I saw you
Perhaps.
post something. Yeah, I saw you post something about it, and I said, you know what? Let me go on eBay and try to buy one. No way. You're talking $200+ for that thing.
Get out.
Yeah.
This was the first, I think last year we did it. This was the second Christmas in a row that we remembered to move the mouse every day.
200 $200+ for that mouse.
Never getting rid of that.
Nope.
All right, so my number 3 is Micro Machines. And I think this kind of ties to the conversation before about mini playsets and Mighty Max. I love Micro Machines. I think this kind of predated Mighty Max. So we had a bunch of these already. By the time Mighty Max came out, which was cool because, okay, Mighty Max came out, the smaller Ninja Turtles came out, there was mini Power Rangers, mini Batman figures. So there was a lot of military Micro Machines. The one on the left is the tank, which actually folded up. So if you wanted to use it as a tank, you could. And then I had the mountain base, which was actually really cool. But these were just awesome. I mean, they came with all these like military vehicles, helicopters, figurines. These were great. And again, you can have this big play set in a small package, which was awesome that you couldn't get with bigger figures. But probably the Super Van City was my favorite. And especially around the time where the mini Power Rangers came out. Because then I had the Micro Machine versions of the Zords that then this became like that scene from the show. Like the Zords would be kind of fighting villains in this scene, but then it just had so many cool elements to it. The race car dragster thing, it had a car wash. You could put the cars down the ramp here where they would go flying, so this worked well with those, any of those mini figures you had. I'd have the turtle van riding around on this thing. And then it just had some cool features. I remember the Christmas that I got this. I have to go back and look at what year it is, but I remember opening it and just being completely wowed by it.
I still have all of our Micro Machines.
I don't have the Micro Machines. I don't know why they're out right now, but
yeah, I definitely have.
These are all the mini mutants. So they're all Ninja Turtle mini mutants.
Nice. Yeah, I have all of the Micro Machine cars, and I'm sure there's probably some of the Army men. So the Army set came with like little men.
And then
Yeah, that's cool. That scales so well with Super Van City.
And these were Micro Machines. Like Power Rangers partnered with Micro Machines. So my Zords would like this would be Angel Grove to me.
Yeah,
So.
100%. This was awesome. I'd be lying if I said I didn't look up Super Van City on eBay a couple times.
Which is funny because like you never played with this.
Oh, I totally remember playing with that.
Did you? I thought like this was. I don't think I ever saw you play with this.
So when we lived in Canarsie, I think I was playing more with like actual Matchbox and Hot Wheels. because I don't remember if you remember, but the tiles that were
It was like
pretty much
road.
throughout the kitchen and down the hallway to our bedrooms looked like streets. And I used to kind of run them around the street, so maybe I
Mhm.
was playing with the bigger stuff at the time. But yeah, I remember using them. But Super Van City, I remember playing with. The army stuff. I think was all yours.
Yeah. But yeah, that tank. I specifically remember opening the tank, the mountain. It's weird. Like I have these kind of like mini memories of when those things were. But the Super Van, this thing got a lot of play. Like this thing, probably about time we got rid of it. Like I've worn it down. So definitely got its use. But and you don't see them because these were hard to like. If you're a kid and you didn't lose any of these pieces, like that's amazing. Which is probably why they're worth so much. But like, I mean, I have baggies of all those mini pieces. I don't know how we kept those.
Yeah,
All right, on to number two. Trying to think of what your number two was. I don't remember.
yeah, I know what it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
So, I mean, it's no secret. I'm a gamer. I love playing video games. I remember my grandmother got me Nintendo. Um, I still have well, I don't have the original system, but I have the modified one. We put the cartridge in on top. Um, and probably about 60, 70 games of, NES, and didn't have another system until this, right? I remember this came out in 96, I believe. So I was in like sixth grade. At the same time, I got PlayStation, the original one. Um, our mother would not buy us another system like Super Nintendo, Genesis, because we had so many games for Nintendo. And I kind of took what she said and kind of applied it to today, is where it's like, all right, beat a game and then get another one. Now, if that was the case, I would still not have any video games other than Nintendo, because I don't think I've ever beaten a Nintendo game. They were impossible. Uh,
Paperboy.
no, I've never beaten it. I've beaten one day, but not a whole week. It's like an impossible thing. So Nintendo was my first. I loved it. When this system came out, we got it from our dad for Christmas '96. I remember he got it at this was the hot item. Couldn't find it. He definitely had to overpay to get it. It was either at PC Richards or the Wiz is where he bought it. Um,
Which the
and
Wiz was I think was a New York exclusive store.
yeah, yeah. He bought three games. It was Super Mario 64, Wave Race, and Pilot Wings were the three that we had. We had a green controller. I still have all this stuff. Um, I'm going to say, I mean, I remember going to Blockbuster and Mario 64 was on display where you could play it. Um, and this system was fantastic. I mean, I love it. I actually had mine hooked up in the spare bedroom recently. I played Mario 64. I played Banjo Kazooie. Um, I love this system. Not so here. It's funny because the four games that you posted here um, are so different, right? Madden 64, they didn't have the NFL license, so none of the teams had names. It was just like New York, New Jersey. It was instead of New England, it was Foxborough. Um, and then Ken Griffey Jr. baseball. You couldn't play those games today. Like you cannot play those today. Whereas Wave Race and Mario 64, you could turn them on and still play. I'm gonna say that Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time. Um, and I think as a wrestling fan, um, the later versions of wrestling games for Nintendo 64 were the best wrestling games ever made. Um, we had, Revenge, No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. I mean, those games were awesome. And I got to say, many of Christmas Eves playing at Uncle Mikey and Chrissy's house, multiplayer, GoldenEye with the golden gun. Playing multiplayer then meant just don't look at anyone else's square on the
Yeah.
TV. But I mean, we played with this system was great. A lot of stinker games here, but um, you know, uh, Mission Impossible. I mean, Mike's in the chat now. Mission Impossible got uh, push back, push back, push back, push back. You thought you were getting a crazy game. Game was horrible. But this really set me up for I gamer still. So love this system.
Yeah, and I think this was the first system where like it wasn't yours, like it was ours. So we did have to share. Um, so coincidentally, I put these games here because I remember you playing. I remember you playing these games the most. Where you beat Mario, I beat Mario. I never even like I played Wave Race once or twice. I sucked at it. You were the sports guy, so you always played Ken Griffey, Matt, and I'd play against you, but you'd whip me all the time. So, but my number two happens to be very similar because it's Nintendo 64. And our styles are very different, right? I was always more attracted to like the fantasy side, the sci-fi. But you like these games too. So, I know we both enjoyed them. I think like what you said about Nintendo, like I never beat a Nintendo game. I beat all four of these games and I had fun doing it. I remember this is when stories started to get more linear. Star Fox, I loved Star Fox. That was the first game with the Rumble Pack. Banjo and Kazooie was kind of like Super Mario, but with a buddy.
Did you
Really cool.
did you beat Banjo and Kazooie?
Yeah, I think we both did.
I recently beat it on the Nintendo Switch Online. I do not remember beating it as a kid. That game was hard as hell. As an adult, it was really hard to beat.
I mean, when you're playing for like 3 hours at a time every day, you get really good at it. Like I remember the clanker episode that or a board that was hard with like that rusty bottom bay or something like that.
Yep.
But later on, you did get PlayStation, and like I play games nowadays, not as much. Like there a game comes out, I really want it, I get it, I play it till I beat it, and then I don't play another game for a few years. So this was the era where I really like fell in love with like these characters, these games. Banjo Kazooie, I think I was put over Mario. Um, only Mario to be second to it, but I think Banjo and Kazooie was one of my favorites. So I remember when we got this. I remember going to the stores with our father and we went to one electronics store. He said, I want a Nintendo 64. And the guy said, oh, okay, I'll be right back. He goes behind the booth and he only spoke a little bit of English. He came back. He brought like the actual Nintendo back. And Dad was just like, no, not that. Nintendo 64. And the guy said, oh, okay, I'll go. So he brought back a Super Nintendo. And then finally the guy came. He said, oh, yeah, we don't have that one. It's so funny. But yeah.
I also love that you put Diddy Kong Racing up there. We never had Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And I think Diddy Kong Racing is actually better.
I think so.
Which is what I was currently playing, trying to beat it. So that's what was loaded in.
I don't think I ever beat Diddy Kong. Do you know? I did.
Once again, not easy.
All right. So our number two is the same. I think this is the only one that we were kind of the same on and the same order. So we are narrowing down. But before we get to our number one options, we do have some honorable mentions. So Anthony, we'll go to your honorable mentions first, and we'll talk about them.
Yeah. So I have these Hook and Dick Tracy. So I brought out Hook. So Hook, I loved this line, and this was the line that you were talking about that you would kind of take your Robin Hood and your Hook characters, and they would play together. And why I didn't put these on my list is for one simple reason: we didn't have all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the reason why this is not on my list. The picture that you have right there of the food fight. I mean, that one is awesome. We didn't have the crocodile, and we didn't have the short fat kid.
And we
We
didn't have Smee. There was a Smee figure.
right, and we didn't have Smee. But this boat raft thing was awesome.
That
Um,
thing was cool. That thing was really cool.
great play set, but the only reason why it didn't crack my top list is because we didn't have them all. Um, but loved the line, and
Yeah.
still have all the ones that we had. Rufio came with a skateboard, that hover, thing, which was cool. I believe there was two versions. Like one was like all like that beige color, and then one
That's
was
why I put that one on there, because my version of Rufio came with no paint on the actual like ski part. The skateboard was plain. Yours had like a green tint. You had some graphics on it. So I don't know if it was like a misprint or a variant, whatever it was. Um, but yeah, I didn't even know some of those other characters existed until recently. But like the food fighting Peter Pan, that is the equivalent, I would say, of the hard to find figure of your other honorable mention, Dick Tracy. Like that one is pretty expensive if you can find it.
so. Dick Tracy is my second honorable mention, and I loved playing with these figures. So here I got Dick Tracy. Um, what I love about these is I still have most of the accessories. He's got his gun. He's got a little belt. Um, this is Rodent, and I got Itchy, and he comes with his Tommy gun. Um, I love these guys. These scaled perfectly with turtles. Um,
Who was the green suit guy? He was my favorite.
Shoulders.
Shoulders.
So we had every figure from this line except one. And I've been dying to buy it, but I
Oof.
can't and I won't. Um, what I loved about these guys was that they were so colorful. Every guy was colorful. For a decently dark movie, everything figure wise was colorful. We also had both vehicles. Um,
Do you still have them?
I don't. And those were the ones. It was funny because our mom never really like when we had a toy, we had a toy. And what I remember specifically about those vehicles is she was always trying to get us to be like really careful with them. Like those weren't allowed to be in our circulation of toys. So there was something about them that she didn't want us to like screw them up. But
We beat them up though.
oh, I mean, we played. I mean, these figures got a lot of playtime, but the fact that the blank eludes me drives me crazy.
Mhm.
You could probably buy the entire set off of eBay, mint on card, including the vehicles, for probably like a couple $100, and that's every figure. And then the blank is $2,000-3,000, and it just drives me nuts. It's just
I saw it in person at last year's Orlando MegaCon, and it was like $4,000.
yeah, it's nuts, crazy.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they didn't release it because they didn't want it to ruin the movie, it's pretty aggravating. Because just for a great set, not to be able to complete it is something that bothers me.
Yeah.
But
Good
those are my
honorable mentions.
yeah, two great lines. Just not being able to complete them, they can't make my list.
Yeah, I remember like having like all the Lost Boys would have been cool. Like I mean Rufio. So going back to your Storm Shadow version 2, I remember playing with that GI Joe with the Bat Cycle with that golden sword. I don't know how my imagination was, but I have a memory of mixing the hook sword with that GI Joe on that vehicle. It was like the weirdest thing. So that's why I love V2 Storm Shadow. So my honorable mentions are weird. At least one of them is weird. So My Pal 2 electronic talking robot. Do you remember me having this?
Do. I mean, I wouldn't have ever guessed this in a million years, but seeing it, I definitely remember.
This is when Anthony and I were not friends as brothers, and he wouldn't play with me. So I had a pet robot that would talk to me. Um, this thing had ring toss on his head. He would throw a ball. He would like flick a disc. He had roller skates. He had like voice commands. This thing was so cool. Um, I don't remember. I remember getting it for Christmas, but this is probably preschool era, and I think just holding on to a memory from that long ago is a feat. But you always see it. Like I think it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They make fun of Ricky the Robot. This was my version of Ricky the Robot. Um, and I think they're still making things like this for kids, if I'm not mistaken. So that's one honorable mention. The other one I put on there because I think it's at the time was pretty wild. We had RC cars, but we wanted new ones. I remember getting the Deceptor, and I remember to me this was like a really innovative thing at the time. I was like, wow, this is like an RC car that hasn't been made yet. And I remember the first time riding around this RC car, and you had a red button on the right, and if you hit that button, and it was in truck mode, it turned it into race car mode. And I just thought that was, at the time, I thought that was wild. If I had one of these now, I'd still think it's pretty crazy. I don't think they're hard to get, but I think the hard part is getting one that works. Um, but I remember I would use this thing, and I used to use RC cars with action figures all the time. But I remember playing with this one a lot. Like I loved this car. Do you remember that year we got the cars?
Yeah, I feel like I got just a truck.
You got like a blue Dodge Ram, and I
Yeah.
remember thinking like I got the cool one.
Oh, yeah, 100. These things were always fun, except, and I believe the ones that we previously had, we both had the same one. Um,
And those were cool too. Like I'd switch back and forth to playing with the old one. It was like a
yeah,
pink and blue,
yeah.
like very 90s design kind of
The
truck.
only issue was like you couldn't play with them on the same channel, and like you always had to be on different channels, otherwise you would get all jammed up.
Oh.
But
The only thing about these that I remember sucking is that the battery would last like 10 minutes.
yeah, I mean, and I guess more modern day hobbies, like, you know, working for the parks department, I go to some parks and there's guys flying like planes that are remote control planes, and I was talking to the guy and he said it probably costs about like $1,200 for the whole thing, and it
Yeah.
5 minute battery charge.
Well, I remember you played with it for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then these things would take all day to charge.
Yeah,
All day.
I'd assume it's a little bit better now though.
It has to be. I mean, I played with that RC tank before, and like I mean, I don't play with it all that much, like almost never because of the dogs, but um yeah, it's still fun to just put something on the ground and drive it around. It's cool. All right. We are into our number one picks. We've been talking for a while, so after this, we'll wrap it up. I kind of knew this would be your number one. So let's get into it. These, as long as I remember having toys, I remember these figures. So there was a time where you and I both had them, and eventually you became more of the super fan. So I'll kind of let you take it away from there.
Yeah. So WWE, WWF. I'm not going to say WWE. WWF Hasbro figures. These were, I mean, I guess my second generation of wrestling figures. I did have, we had a couple of the LJN style, but not many of them. And then this, they went from these big bulky figures to these small Hasbro figures. Um, and this is, I just brought Jake the Snake downstairs. I mean, he is probably my favorite of the entire line. I mean, the snake fits perfectly on his neck. This is my childhood Jake, childhood Snake. I love Jake the Snake. Um, Now, I didn't know how many of these figures actually were made. Um, I didn't have that many. Maybe like 15 or 20 of them, which, I mean, it seems like a lot, but there was 100 figures in the line. And then once I kind of got an eBay account, I started buying, the ones that I didn't have, and then I kind of just stopped. Luckily, before I stopped, I did buy a couple of the last series, and I bought 1, 2, 3 Kid for like $40, which seemed like $1 million when I was buying the other ones for like $2, 3 bucks. Ludwig Borga and Billy Gunn. Those were the three from the Green series that I actually bought, and then I just kind of like put them away. And then during COVID, the major wrestling figure podcast guys did a whole special on Hasbro's, and I said, you know what, it's time to finish this. So during COVID, I started piecing it together, and I bought all the accessories, um, and had a whole complete set of the original 100. And then I watched another one of their videos, and they went to a vintage toy store out in Long Island. I believe it was like Time Warp Toys or something like that. And they showed in their vlog the ring with the original stickers, the flagpole, the belt, everything. And I called them up, and they were like, "Dude, do you have this still?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, can you hold it? I'm coming right now." And I left work and I drove. It was $100, and I got the ring, and it was like, okay, great. I have the all 100 figures. I have the ring. I'm good. And then I was missing the three mailaways. So as I was paying for a wedding, I spent $1,500 on a Hulk Hogan in a bag, um, which probably wasn't the brightest idea. Um, that's the only mail away I have. I don't have the Undertaker, and I don't have the Bret Hart, and nor will I. Um, so then, more recently, because I felt like I wasn't done yet, I knew that they had 5 different rings. They had, blue blue post flat with a flat top, blue round, black flat, black round, and then the king of the ring, yellow ring. And I had to buy all 5 of them. So I now have all 5 rings, every figure. These figures have set me up to be a wrestling figure collector. This is, my biggest collection is wrestling figures. Every well, I can't say every because I actually gave away a bin of figures years
Bone
ago
crunchers,
that breaks my heart. Not only Bone Crunchers, it was Bone Crunchers, it was
Titantron.
ECW, and it was WCW figures. I actually have all my Titantron figures. Titantron, Ruthless Aggression. I have all those. That's actually where I pulled my WMAC Master guy out of. He was living in there. But I
I
have
thought Titantron would have been on your list.
Yeah, it just Hasbro. I didn't want to put 2 wrestling things. Hasbro's would just they just meant the world to me. They still do. To me, in my current adult display, they are my centerpiece. You know, they're my favorite action figure line of all time.
Yeah, and I chose the characters I chose because you and I both like. I had my own Ultimate Warrior. I had my own Hulk Hogan. Um, I remember you had this green $1 million man, and it just always looked cool to me. But I think there was a point where I said, oh, okay, wrestling's cool, but I'm going to go off over here. And then you were just full steam ahead with the wrestling figures. And there was a huge gap between these and like the next generation, like between these and Bone Crunchers, right? But then after that, I remember then there was WCW figures. You had all the ECW figures. So, you know, I would say beyond these Hasbro figures, the figures that you had otherwise, just all of wrestling. And then that kind of, today I feel it's like a never ending like pit. I don't even know where to like start or stop.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
way to start now.
so you are missing one figure from this line, right? Isn't it like a variant or something?
I'm missing 2. Uh,
Two?
I'm missing. So there were 3 Mallaways that you could have got for $15.99 if you got the WWE magazine, which at the time that these were out, we weren't getting that. Otherwise, I probably would have begged to get them. It was a Mailaway Hogan, which is the only one that's really different. He comes in a red outfit. Bret Hart, he comes in a bag, and the difference with him is the uh, heart on his singlet is purple. Um, I have that Brett loose because it was a variant from that original series, but because it's not in the bag, I'm technically not counting it. And then there was a mail away Undertaker, um, and his hair is a different color than the other two Undertakers. So
Yeah.
I'm missing those two. My first time at Pandora's Toy Box, up in New Jersey, they had the Undertaker. The guy was like, "Oh, I'll sell it to you for $800," and I probably should have bought it, but I was like, "Hey, $800, I can't spend that much." I probably should have bought it because if you look on eBay, it's a couple thousand now. So
I think between the both of us, I think you win on spending the most I've spent on a figure that was way over retail, was like 160. So when I heard you spend that much money on that figure, I was like,
you
that's
spent
worse than me.
only 160 on one figure.
Yeah.
That's your most expensive.
Yeah. I mean, everything else I either found or, and at the time that was like mind blowing because that figure, if I would have gotten it at retail, would have been like $80.
These guys were 399.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
um, and yeah, that was expensive. But then, like the Green Card series, they were all expensive. And then the Undertaker with the cloak was really expensive too. So, and then I also had to buy all the accessories. I had to make sure I had everything. So, other than the two mailaways, I have everything that I want, and I'm perfectly fine not having those mailaways. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm complete. Unless someone donates a mailaway, I ain't buying them. So,
I just gotta wait for some of these collectors to start, start going to estate sales.
yeah.
So my number one, uh, I'll kind of premise with this first. So between being alive and then up until I started collecting this one very specific thing, other than Turtles, GI Joe, Ghostbusters, which there was a lot of at the beginning. After that, it seemed like there was just a new toy line every couple of years, and nothing really had that longevity. So for one Christmas, I don't think I ever stopped and actually paid attention to what was happening on the shelves with Star Wars, but it was really episode one where like I started to really like fall in love with the brand. And at the time, I didn't really have much exposure to the trilogy. I knew about Star Wars, but this seeing these figures on the shelf is kind of what got me into Star Wars. So um, going back and rewatching the trilogy, watching the prequels as they would come out in theaters, but then also going back to those toy lines that would come out for one series and die. I think finally realizing with Star Wars, like if I wanted to have that like big world with action figures, Star Wars gave you everything. They gave you the main characters, every vehicle, playset, but then they gave you figures that were just like in the background. Maybe you blink and you miss them. And I don't think I ever had that with any toy line. Which then having the figure makes you learn about that character, which always felt like, I was always kind of like probably the most in tune with that fandom because like, oh, I have the toy, so I know exactly what that character is from their bio, right? Even if it's just a character that you don't even see. I know you never got into Star Wars, but that's why I liked it. I was like, you won't get that world building with anything else. And unfortunately, I think the toys have kind of, there's Black Series, but you'll never see world building in a toy line again, like you've seen with Star Wars when they released the Power of the Force 2. Those were the figures in like 95 up until the end of the prequels in 2005. The newer movies, they did not do a big toy line push, so you weren't going to get that kind of story building there. But that sweet spot of Power of the Force 2 until the end of the prequels, we got tons of toys. And I'll never forget the Christmas that I got a lot of these Star Wars figures. I had that Royal Starship. It's the only part of my Star Wars collection I do not have today, because I remember this was in our room and I fell back and I like landed on it, just destroyed. So this one did not stand the test of time. Darth Maul was the first Star Wars figure I ever got, which then got me into the whole story and timeline of Star Wars. So that is my number one.
I,
Did you have?
it's funny because as I was sitting here, I'm like, what is his number one? And it didn't hit me until the picture popped up, and I was like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. These, what I remember, I mean, because in all honesty, to this day, I've never seen Star Wars,
Ugh.
which I know is very unpopular with many people. I haven't gotten past like 20 minutes of the first one. Um, now I do remember playing the video game of this, the Phantom Menace, and it was fun. But I never got into it. Now I think part of it was um, you liked it so much that I didn't want to like it. Um, but what I do remember, what I thought was cool, and I don't remember what they were. Didn't each figure come with like a chip?
Yeah, that's why I was surprised. I was surprised that you didn't put the Titantron as an option, because the same year that Titantron came out is the same year that the Comtech came out. Which was interesting because it's like I had all these voice activated Star Wars figures, and you had all these voice activated wrestling figures.
Well, the Titantron was cool, but only like 8 voices, really.
It was still cool though.
Now
I still have all the Comtechs. I have the actual reader. Um,
I recently bought a Titantron to try to. It was all beat up, but I wanted to repurpose it to make a stage for the Rock and Roll NECA Turtles.
that's cool. um, to your point, I think that's why I kind of teetered off like maybe video games or wrestling, because you liked it so much, and I was like, well, I got Star Wars. He'll never like this, right? And I don't know. It's just, again, there'll never be a toy line like it. Not even today's Star Wars will never be like it. You'll never see that amount of play sets. You'll never see that amount of vehicles, that amount of characters. I think that era of toys is done. And I'm glad that, like, when I was going from playing with toys to just displaying toys to then just collecting and keeping in package, like I saw that whole kind of life cycle with Star Wars. I went from playing with them to putting them on the shelf to keeping them mint on card. So I kind of experienced that whole thing with Star Wars. So for me, that's my number one. Did you have fun tonight?
Oh yeah, this was awesome. I mean, I pulling out the bin in the attic. Well, actually, I couldn't pull it out. I had to literally climb through bins because it was buried in the back. I want to. I mean, I can't, but I would love to figure out a way to display that bin. I mean, there was just I'm looking at that thing and I'm just like, man, I can't. These things are a waste in the attic. Like I want them out, but
Yeah, I always thought growing up I'd have a basement, and then I was going to put the crown molding 4 inches from the ceiling, and then I was going to display all of my 3 3/4 inch Star Wars figures around. Uh, so that didn't happen. There's no Florida. There's no basements in Florida, so I won't be doing that. But thank you for making your YouTube debut with me.
yeah,
Hope
this
you had a good time. We'll come up with other topics and do this again. Everybody, thank you in the chat for watching. Anthony, where can everybody find you? I know it's just Instagram, but if you want to tell people to go find you.
Yeah,
You gonna start a YouTube channel?
I am not going to start a YouTube channel. Um, I would love to, but I don't think I'm interesting enough, and I don't have much to talk about. But on Instagram, a boy and his toys 10, where I post some stuff, not a whole lot. Um, but yeah, I kind of don't post much. So very very minor figure photography. Um, Bringing plunderlings all over the place. Um, Things like that. But some custom stuff. But yeah, this was great. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, no, we'll come up with some more topics. Guys, follow me, build dioramas, talk toys sometimes. And I'm going to try to do a lot more live streams for the new year. So, with that, I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Yeah, is it Christmas? I mean,
It,
it's time for me to go to bed. He's
it's
coming.
almost Christmas. So, hope you
I'm
all have a good one, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.